All right, class, welcome to Algebra 1, Chapter 5. You've made it to Chapter 5, and we're going to start, well, this in 5.1, we're going to be finding the greatest common factor, but we are going to factor throughout Chapter 5, a very important part of algebra. Let's begin. If you are asked to find the greatest common factor between two numbers, the first thing you should probably do is consider the prime of products, or product of primes. Now, I have conveniently broke each of these numbers up into the product of primes. Here, folks, is why it is going to be so important that you know your multiplication. If it took you a long time to figure out that 32 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, if it took you a long time, like a minute or two, that's too long. You need to be able to recognize this within like not more than 10 seconds. Same with 36. 36 is 6 times 6. You should know that 6 is a 2 times 3. This headwork should happen very fast, folks. Now notice what I have here. I have a 2 and a 2, a 2 and a 2, but the rest of my 2's, there's no 2 down here to cover it, and as far as my 3's, there are no 3's up here. So here I have two 2's that are my common factors. So for these two numbers, the common factor is 4. Here are two numbers. I need to find their common factor. 36 I already did in my last problem. I just copied the products of prime. Here I kind of wrote it out of order because I thought of this as, a 9 times 10, and I know as a 9 is a 3 times 3, and a 10 is a 2 times 5. And for sure there's a 2 that's in common for each. There are also two 3's that are common. So this will be my common factor, which turns out to be 18. Here are my next three numbers, 12, 18, and 36. Again, I'm going to do the same with 36. And I actually had 18 also. 12 should be easy enough, 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, let's see what each of these have in common. They all have a 2, and they have a 3. But at this point, that's all they have in common. There's a 2 here. There's a 3 here, there's a 2 and a 3 here, but that's it. So 2 times 3 is the common factor, which is 6. All right, here are my next products here. To find my, now here, we're not dealing with numbers. Now we're just dealing with variables. So let's break this up visually and check this out. So visually, this is what this is. Y squared is this, y to the 4th is 4y's, and y to the 7th are 7y's. So what do they have in common? Turns out they each have 2 y's. So y squared is my greatest common factor. And look here, if you kind of notice from the get-go, you should say, well, there's 2 here, there's 4 here, 7 here. There's at least 2 in each. So right at this point, very quickly, you should be able to do headwork and jump to this point. All right, for our next problem, I have x cubed, x squared, and x cubed. Visually, this is what we get. X times x times x here, x times x here, and x times x times x here. They each have 2 x's in common. So my greatest common factor here is x squared. All right, here's my next set of products. X cubed times y squared, x times y, and x squared times y cubed. I would expect you should do this in your head, but again, we'll do it the long way on this one. So here I've written it out. X times x times x times y times y, x times x times x times y times y times y. What do they have in common? They each have 1 x, they each have 1 y, and that's it. So xy is my greatest common factor for my 3 products here. All right, see if you can check out what I got here. This is p to the 7th times q, p to the 8th times q squared, p to the 9th times q to the 3rd. You guys, I am not going to write all this out. I'm going to look and see. I know I'm dealing with p's and q's. I have 7 here, 8, and 9 here, so at least I'm going to have 7. So there's my 7 p's. Now observing my q's, I have 1 q here, 2 here, and 3 here, so I at least have 1 in each. So p to the 7th q is my greatest common factor for these 3 products. Here are my next 3 products. X to the 10th, y to the 4th, z to the 6th, x to the 8th, y to the 6th, z to the 5th, and x to the 9th, y to the 10th, and z to the 6th. Here we are working with x, y, and z, so I'm going to start with my x's. I can right away see I have 8 x's in each of my products. Next, I can see clearly I have 4 y's in each, at least 4. And here, I have at least 5 z's in each. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is my greatest common factor for these 3 products. Okay, and this is going to be more like what we're working with. I have a 12y and I have a 20y cubed. Let's figure out our greatest common factor. Breaking up my 12, I get 2 times 2 times 3 times y. Sorry, breaking up my 12y, this is what I get. And breaking up my 20y cubed, I get 2 times 2 times 5 times y times y times y. What do they have in common? They have 2 2's and a y in common. So 2 times 2 times y is 4y. This is my greatest common factor for these 2 products. Alright, here's my next 2 products, 32x and 18x squared. Again, knowing that 32 are 5 2's multiplied by each other, that comes up a lot. For 18x squared, I get 2 times 3 times 3 times x times x. And we have a couple 2's in common and a couple x's in common, but that's it. So greatest common factor is 2x. Okay, here are my next 3. At this point, folks, I'm not going to be breaking these up like this. I'm just going to be doing these quickly, and if you don't see what I'm doing, you're going to have to pause, go back, and figure out the multiple that I did. Again, this is the reason why your multiplication skills with numbers are extremely important. I know for sure there's going to be a 3 as a factor for each of these, and I see that there are at least 3 x's. So 3x cubed is my greatest common factor. For my next 3 products, I know I'm going to need a 5. That is a factor of each of these. And I have 2 y's. So 5y squared is my greatest common factor. And folks, that is about how fast you should be able to find the greatest common factor for something like this. Alright, for my next numbers, 18x squared y times, and then 9x cubed y cubed, and 36x cubed y. Looking at these numbers, I know a 9 will work. As far as x's, I have 2 x's in each. And then for my y's, there is at least 1 y in each of these factors. So 9x squared y is my greatest common factor for these multiples. For my next 3, I have 7x here, 21x squared y squared, and 14xy. I think a 7 for sure is going to work. As far as x's, there's 1 x in each. And as far as y's, there's actually no y's in this first one, so that's not going to work. So 7x is my greatest common factor for these 3 products. Alright folks, there's your intro to greatest common multiples. Very important thing in math. We'll see you next time for part 2 of chapter 5.1.